Okay, just doing a short video because some people have showed interest on priming a panel. It's cheap and it's much easier to do than you might think. This is some 6mm MDF fiberboard that I've had cut up at a local wood merchants. They cut it up for me. They cut up to large sizes, A2. I'm going to prime these panels at A2, and if I want smaller ones, I'll cut the panels up with a handsaw because it's quite easy to do. I'm going to be using this 3-inch brush, which I'm waving around. Used to use a roller because the roller was quite effective. It gives a very smooth finish. But it was a little bit too smooth for me. Actually, I now prefer a bit more texture in my paint, and as I use quite thin layers of paint, I thought it was better to start using a brush. There's at least some texture in the gesso. If there's no actual, even if there's no actual texture in the paint, because I don't use very thick films of paint. Another thing that you can do to add even more texture in the gesso stage is you can actually add some household filler to the gesso, and that will make it thicker. You stir it in, it will make it thicker, and you can get really thick gesso if you want a lot of texture on your panels. It can be quite handy. Little tip. The gesso I'm using is this stuff, which is cheap Winsor Newton Galleria acrylic gesso. It's not true gesso because it's not made with rabbit skin glue and marble dust or whatever it is you want to use. But it's really good. It soaks into the panels really well. It's nice and white. It dries very quickly, and I don't have to spend hours over the stove heating up rabbit skin glue and I don't know, scraping panels with cuttlefish or whatever the traditionalists really enjoy doing. I'm not going down that route. Did I mention a roller? Yeah, I think I might have done. Anyway, I've also got the panel on some pieces of board, cut off bits of board, because it tends to stick to newspaper like nothing else. So these little bits just let it hover off the panel, and encourage it not to stick quite so badly. Okay, so there's a gesso. There we go. Ta-da! Brush. Oh. What I'm going to do is give it a quick coat of gesso over the top, and then let that dry. This layer is going to be thin to prime the panel and to get it to soak in to the panel, so it makes it adheres really nicely to the panel. I probably would also give it a wipe over with a cloth first, just get any dust off it. Don't be too fussy, just get it all over there like this. Thrilling stuff, isn't it? Like watching paint dry, literally. Although it's not paint, it's gesso. Funny word, isn't it? Gesso. You don't have to do it on the floor, it's not compulsory, it's just that my studio is really got quite a low ceiling at this point. It's the most convenient place to do it is on the floor with lots of newspaper down for me. Panel's quite cheap. We've got, I say, a local timber merchant to cut it up. I think he cut me 2 sheets for 33 British pounds, and those sheets cut up into about, I think it's 20 pieces or something, 20 A2 pieces. So that's, if you think how much you'd pay for a panel in a shop, that's ridiculously cheap, and it's nearly just under £2 a sheet. of A2, and these panels, when you're finished, are going to be just as good as anything you buy in a shop, really. I used to prime them with rabbit skin glue. I don't do that anymore. Don't see the point. Rabbit skin glue is what we call hydroscopic, and apparently can absorb moisture, which is not what you want doing under your paint, really. I don't think it really affects it. It's such thin layers. I don't think it really affects it, but I just don't think it's necessary anymore. And what I'd also do at this point is I would give the edges a coat of paint as well, or a coat of gesso. This bit's a bit of a pain. It's probably the most time-consuming bit of the process, to be honest. But I only give them one coat, chiefly because I might cut these A2 panels down at some point. I regularly do the picture, put the drawing on, decide got too much at the top or too much at the bottom or whatever, a little bit off the sides. It's like having your hair cut, isn't it? And so I might doctor them. So it's just good to have some gesso on the sides in case you don't cut them down, in which case the paint will not be absorbed quite so readily into the edges. The edges are really porous, and so when you put paint directly onto the edges, it gets sucked in quite quickly and can take quite a long time to paint the edges if you paint the edges, or if you feel you need to paint the edges when you're actually doing your painting. I do, because I have them on the float mounted frame, and the edges can be seen, so I paint the edges. That's pretty much it. Leave that to dry. I'll do the edges, I'll go around the edge, then I'd leave that to dry, flip it over, do the other side, and then flip this, and when that's dry I'll flip it back, do this side again. And you can do as many coats as you like, at least 2 I would say. 3 is probably good, but at least 2. You might want to put a 3rd coat on just before you do your actual oil painting. At that point you might want to draw the image out. You might decide you want to add some impasto marks with some gesso, maybe mix up some thicker gesso with some filler, like I said earlier, and you might want to put some extra sort of texture in the pictures. But you might hate texture, and you might sand it and then give it another coat, and then sand it again with some wet and dry. But that's entirely up to you and your personal preference. That's it.